This is week 7. Can you believe we're that far along? We hope you've been smoke-free the entire time. What you've been experiencing as you succeed in becoming and in remaining a non-smoker is called positive reinforcement. People do not continue to practice non-rewarding behavior. This is a universal truth about positive reinforcement in human behavior.
Almost all smokers know that smoking is harmful to them. They know that if they continue smoking, they might experience serious, even life-threatening consequences. Yet they continue to smoke, and each day new cohorts of individuals become smokers. Why does this happen? The most compelling answer is that nicotine provides something smokers consider beneficial. Smokers continue smoking because of that. It serves a useful function for them.
There are at least 3 ways that smoking is an example of positive reinforcement. 1, the speed with which the nicotine gets to the brain, about 7 seconds. 2, the number of times nicotine hits the brain every day, 200 times a day for a 20-a-day smoker. And 3, the number of other things and activities that are closely associated with smoking.
As we stated earlier, you have nicotinic receptor sites in the brain. Those receptor sites are there poised to accept nicotine. Every time you took a puff off a cigarette, you got measurable amounts of nicotine to the brain within 7 seconds. That's fast. If you were injecting nicotine in a vein, you would get it to the brain in about 14 seconds. The nicotine binds with the nicotinic receptor sites in the brain and causes neurotransmitters such as dopamine and norepinephrine to be released. The brain becomes dependent on these neurotransmitters to move energy between cells of the brain and makes the smoker feel different, usually better.
2nd, smoking and nicotine are positively reinforcing because of the number of times the brain gets a hit of nicotine every day. A smoker takes 10 puffs off each cigarette.
3rd, during each of these 20 episodes of smoking each day, there are many other things going on that are associated with smoking. Where you are, who you're with, what you're doing. When those other things happen, they remind you that you should be smoking. These are just 3 of the major reasons smoking and nicotine are positively reinforcing. It is therefore not surprising that becoming a permanent non-smoker is so difficult.
The behavioral psychologist B.F. Skinner once said, "Any behavior which results in a positive state of affairs or eliminates a negative state of affairs or prevents development of a negative state of affairs is positively reinforced and tends to become habit." Smoking may have started out as just a habit, something you could stop doing anytime you wanted. But as you continued to smoke, that habit became the basis for an addiction to nicotine, something you could not stop anytime you wanted.
Cigarettes were meeting a need in your life. More importantly, if you denied your brain nicotine, your brain would have a temper tantrum and you would be in a world of hurt. Withdrawal from a drug, any drug you're dependent on, pushes a person to lapse and relapse. The fact is, the smoker spends each day going through multiple periods of fighting withdrawal. When the blood nicotine level gets to a trough level, in order to avoid the pain of withdrawal, the smoker lights up another cigarette.
In addition to physical addiction needs, smoking and nicotine also satisfy social and psychological needs. These 3 types of needs fit together. Smoking is therefore not just one behavior. Smoking is actually a complex group of behavior and behavior patterns.
Nicotine provided by the nicotine patch, nicotine gum, or the nicotine lozenge can become a very powerful positive reinforcement once the individual decides he or she will be better off as a non-smoker.
Let's use your experience in the Cooper-Clayton method as an example. Before you started this program, you knew and had even experienced more than a few suggestions or hints, even ultimatums to stop smoking. Every time someone you love and respect put pressure on you to stop, you probably felt defensive and somewhat embarrassed you couldn't stop. You knew it was in your best interest to stop, but just didn't know how to do it. You had probably tried to stop many times, but each time were not successful. You knew that trying again might lead to failure, but you were willing to make another effort.
So you were willing to accept some discomfort, even some pain, to go from being a smoker to being a non-smoker. As we said earlier, people don't continue to practice non-rewarding behavior. Most smokers we have worked with were pretty happy with cigarettes during the early years that they smoked. Tom and I have never met a heavy smoker who really wanted to throw away their cigarettes to quit smoking. We accept that. All we've ever asked is that the smoker believe they would be better off as a non-smoker than as a smoker.
Those of you who are successful at this point clearly made that decision. You also possessed a second belief. You were willing to accept some discomfort in the process of making the transition from smoker to non-smoker.
Third, you were looking for a program, a method that could help you make that transition. We hope by now that you've seen that the Cooper-Clayton method works. If you compare your success at 6 weeks to those people you work with who started using the nicotine patch, the nicotine gum, or the nicotine lozenge the same way you did, or the same day you did, and they did not have a program to follow, I will bet you that many of them are back to cigarettes in this short period of time.
Smokers cannot avoid the overwhelming amount of evidence that exists about the dangers and consequences of smoking. Now that less than 20% of the population smokes, smokers are a clear minority.
Your decision to use the Cooper-Clayton method and to follow the way we recommend you use the NRT products has led to success. This is very positively reinforcing. People who succeed in becoming non-smokers learn to replace a rewarding short-term behavior, smoking, with a more rewarding long-term behavior, being a non-smoker. Short-term, they're going to experience some discomfort. The discomfort is normal and we expect it.
Most of those who start the Cooper-Clayton method have tried to become non-smokers before, often many times, and failed. We ask them to record their cigarette consumption for 1 week. We want them to be really ready and much more aware of their smoking patterns. They then introduce them to the nicotine patch gum or lozenge. That is the first time many individuals have received their daily nicotine from any source other than a cigarette. The overall goal of the Cooper-Clayton method is to get people from where they are to zero nicotine. We want to slowly break their dependence on nicotine.
A journey is not really a journey. It's a series of short trips. This is nothing but one of those short trips. The first short trip was from the cigarette to the patch, gum, or the lozenge. The next short trip is going to be to a lower dosage patch, or fewer pieces of nicotine gum, or fewer nicotine lozenges.
The biggest fear most of us have is the fear of the unknown. We don't know what to expect. A couple of things can help you understand this transition. First, remember your brain still has some dependence on nicotine. Receiving nicotine from the nicotine patch, nicotine gum, or nicotine lozenge rather than cigarettes doesn't mean all the dependence is gone. Second, don't get nostalgic for that real big powerful rush of nicotine you formerly got from a cigarette. Let your brain get used to receiving nicotine in a steady flow from this new source. Finally, you have to remember you have given up smoking cigarettes. It's a major accomplishment.
Many of the people we've worked with have previously used the patch, gum, or the lozenge. They didn't have anybody to tell them what to expect. Their non-smoking family members think, hey, you gave up cigarettes, great, let's get on with life. For the smoker in this situation, becoming a non-smoker is a process, not a discrete event. They are not ready to get on with life. Their daily battle with the memories of smoking are still occurring. They still need help. This video has been designed to provide that help. If you will commit to systematically going through all of the sessions of the Cooper-Clayton method, you're going to increase the probability that you will be successful 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now.
Just getting off cigarettes is not enough. Remaining off is our goal. A lot of energy needs to be put into relapse prevention, and that is what the video accomplished. The last 6 video segments provide information that will be helpful to new non-smokers to minimize the risk of relapse. The non-smoking people you work with, your non-smoking kids, your spouse, significant others, friends, will forget very rapidly that you ever smoked. Because you've been off cigarettes for a few weeks, they say, what's the big deal?
They may not simply realize how difficult it is to become a non-smoker. You might want to ask them to view the video with you so they can better understand what you're going through. and to be sensitive and supportive.
What's important is that you realize you can't treat a drug dependence overnight. It's something that takes a period of time. We think that 12 weeks is a reasonable period of time to deal with nicotine addiction. Any time shorter than that is not enough to build in relapse prevention. It's not just getting off cigarettes that's important, it's breaking that dependence on nicotine and learning to live without nicotine.
We want you to have every opportunity to succeed. We want to remind you what people who succeed using the Cooper-Clayton method do differently from those who do not succeed.
The people who succeed, number one, receive adequate nicotine so they do not have withdrawal. If you're not comfortable, be very honest with yourself. Are you still slipping in an occasional cigarette? That could be the reason you're not comfortable. That is why we recommend adding up to 4 pieces of the lozenge or the 4 milligram Nicorette to the patch if you are having problems.
The people who succeed trust the alternate source of nicotine. This is very important. Over many years, we've observed that those who faithfully followed the program became comfortable. They put the alternate nicotine source to work and make it do what it's designed to do. They let their brain become accustomed to this new way of giving it nicotine.
The third thing people who succeed do is that they have realistic expectations. You no longer need cigarettes. By now, you should have been off cigarettes 6 weeks and should be comfortable with your alternate nicotine source. We recognize that this alternate source is not a cigarette. It will never be a cigarette. It was not designed to be a cigarette. It is designed to be an alternate way of providing enough nicotine to help you make the transition from smoker to non-smoker in a manageable fashion. It is not magic, it is medication.
Fourth, those who are successful use the alternate nicotine source long enough. Do not put yourself at a higher risk for relapse by rushing to get off the alternate nicotine source. Finally, those who succeed follow the method faithfully. They use the video as a teacher and learn how to continue life as a non-smoker.
We want to give you some specific recommendations about things you can do to maintain this gain you have made.
We recommend that you visit your dentist, get your teeth cleaned, give your mouth that clean feeling possible only as a non-smoker.
Treat yourself to a clean start. Have your woolen clothes cleaned to get the smell of cigarette smoke out of the fabric. Clean your drapes, your sofa, your carpet, so that your house smells good. You probably don't have any idea how bad your house smells until you become a non-smoker.
Wash the inside of your car. Use a new car air freshener. Put some potpourri in the ashtrays. That's much better than cigarette butts.
Those of you using the 21 milligram nicotine patch and who smoke more than 10 cigarettes per day, you will start using the 14 milligram patch next week.
You've come a long way. You're to be congratulated.
Don't get impatient. The nicotine patch, nicotine gum, and the nicotine lozenge are approved for sale by the Food and Drug Administration to be used as an adjunct to a comprehensive behavioral smoking cessation program. That's what the Cooper-Clayton method is. Stick with the gain you've made as a non-smoker. I promise you, it's worth it.